Available now on 4K Blu-ray, 4K Blu-ray, and a Blu-ray, is from Lightyear Entertainment, The Return of Swamp Thing from 1989. This is Jim Wynorski's sequel to Wes Craven's Swamp Thing from 1982, and it's much lighter in tone, this film. This was a film that they get into this in the extras, the voluminous and very fun extras on this disc. This film was intended more for kids. The original Swamp Thing was PG, but back in the early 80s, you could do a lot in a PG. You could be violent, you could be dark, you could swear, you could have full frontal nudity, you could do a lot of stuff in a PG back in 82. And they wanted to do the sequel, same producers as the original, they wanted to do a sequel that was aimed more at kids. So this is much lighter in tone, this is much more, I would call this more a comedy than anything else. And it's just a fun monster movie. So story-wise, we have Swamp Thing, as the title sort of clues you in, Swamp Thing returns in this one. Or as a cousin, younger cousin of mine, I used to show this when he was a little kid, he always referred to this as Swamp Thing Comes Back. So alternate title, Swamp Thing Comes Back. So you have Dick Durock returning as the Swamp Thing, as the titular Swamp Thing. This time, his paramour, his love interest, is Heather Locklear. She is a botanist, runs a flower shop, and she returns to her evil stepfather, portrayed by Jourdan, returning from the first film as Dr. Anton Arcane, mad scientist or perturbed scientist. He's very low-key. I don't know if he gets actually mad in this film. He still has a mansion in the swamp where he's creating strange beasts, strange sort of hybrids of human and animal or human and insect, and keeping them locked up as he's looking for his youth regeneration formula. And he feels that something in the blood of Heather Locklear may hold the key to this. So he has those motives. She's trying to patch up a bad relationship with her stepfather. The mother has died under mysterious circumstances. And Swamp Thing is there to make sure any kind of bayou chicanery doesn't go very far. So I've seen this movie many times over the years. I initially saw this, I rented the tape, Columbia TriStar Home Video. I wasn't aware this was originally a Miramax release, which surprised me. The Columbia TriStar Home Video, and I loved it. And I loved it because it was a little bit truer in some aspects to the comic book. I was a big fan of the Alan Moore run of Saga of the Swamp Thing, and I respected that Return of the Swamp Thing, where it was far sillier than the comic book, which was very serious, and far sillier than the Wes Craven movie. Return of Swamp Thing was a lot more fun. And it also did things in the comic. Did things that the comic did. He looked more like he does in the comic Swamp Thing. He did something that he can do in the comic, which is to basically wither away down into the ground and travel through the green, as they called it, and then come up through like his life force basically could travel through the interconnected system of roots and plant life in this world and basically generate out of nowhere. So there's a scene where he sort of does that in a bathroom. It's not gross, and I thought that scene kind of won me over for this movie. That and the opening titles. The opening titles are set to Born on the Bayou from Creedence Clearwater Revival over actual Steve Bissette artwork from the Swamp Thing comics. And I think in some earlier, maybe some Bernie Wrightson Swamp Thing artwork from comic covers and stuff like that. So the opening sets a great tone. And, I mean, it's a relatively small film. It only really has a couple of locations. It really has a pretty small cast. It didn't have a gigantic budget. But, like I keep saying, this movie is a tremendous amount of fun. It's a two-fisted, it's a very good-natured, very kind. He's kind to the children and all living creatures, Swamp Thing, unless they're bad. When there's time to not be nice anymore. It's a nice Swamp Thing. It's funny and goofy, and I really had a great time with it. So watched it again for this Blu-ray. The 4K transfer looks gorgeous. Colors really pop. It's just, it doesn't. Sometimes the added clarity of HD or 4K kind of betrays a film's budget, and the zippers or the strings show a bit more than they should ideally. That doesn't really happen with this. This movie looks really good. Moves right along. Wynorski knows how to make a fun movie. He knows how to get the most bang for his buck. Literally, a lot of explosions in this movie, and it was a lot of fun. So it looks great. If you have the old, so here's the deal. This was released by MVD on Blu-ray 2018, I think. So in the scheme of things, not that long ago. This 4K upgrade, I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got the MVD copy. I've got this new Lightyear version. Do I need to get rid of the MVD? Can I get rid of the MVD? Is there anything exclusive to the MVD discs that is going to make me want to hold on to it? You're in luck if you are in the position like me, because this disc, or if you do have the MVD disc, and you buy this, you can get rid of the MVD disc. If you don't have the MVD disc and you buy this, you get the MVD disc. I popped in the regular I popped in the 4K, and there's a couple of extras on that. And I'm like, I think they listed more extras. Maybe they're on the Blu-ray. They do that sometimes. I pop in the Blu-ray, the MVD logo comes up right at the beginning, and it is the MVD disc. And even like literally printed on the disc, it is the MVD disc. So the regular Blu-ray edition has all the extras. It is the same disc that came out in 2018. So you get all of that. I'm going to get rid of my old one because I don't need 2 copies of this movie, much as I do like it. And then the 4K has a couple new extras, and it's the 4K transfer. So what are there for goodies? I'm going to read to you off the notes that you can't quite see, but maybe you see reflected in my glasses. We have the 5.0 and 2.0 audio for the movie. We have a 2018 commentary with Jim Wynorski and the composer of the film, Chuck Serino, and the editor, Leslie Rosenthal. That's really fun and really interesting. They go scene by scene, shot by shot. They really break down how this whole film came together and tell some fun on-set stories. There is a 2003 commentary with Jim Wynorski. What's funny, too, is there's the pre and post Louis Jourdan death extras. So any extras that were done while Louis Jourdan was still alive, you hear people say, oh yeah, it was interesting to work with him, blah, blah, blah. And then you get to the extras that were recorded after Louis Jourdan died, and Jim Wynorski is like, yeah, I hated him. He was a pain in the ass. It's kind of funny, but they give respect for Louis Jourdan and the work he had done, and him being in Gigi and him being an MGM star and a Bond villain and all that. But apparently he was a little he brought some MGM baggage, as they refer to it, with him. You've got a 35th anniversary retrospective featurette with the producer of both of these films, and that was a half hour, very fun, very interesting. You've got a Riff Tracks music video. Apparently Riff Tracks did a Return of Swamp Thing commentary at one point, and they had a song in the movie, so it's 2 of the guys from Riff Tracks with clips from the film, and it's fun. That's a couple minutes long. And then you have, pardon me while I scroll over here, voluminous. The extras continue. You have that was on the 4K. So on the 4K, you get the Riff Tracks music video, you've got the 2 commentaries, and you've got the new retrospective that was shot for this release. On the Blu-ray, which was the MVD release, you've got the same commentaries. You've got the different extras. You've got a Jim Wynorski interview that runs 18 minutes. You've got an Arnie Holland producer interview that runs 5 minutes. You've got a Chuck Serino interview that runs 7 minutes. You've got a Leslie Rosenthal interview that runs 9 minutes. You've got a behind-the-scenes slideshow, which is 2 minutes that's set to some score from the film. You've got the Greenpeace PSAs. Okay, let me talk about these. So I won't get to the whole story of how I discovered these, but long ago, a couple years after this movie came out, or it felt like a couple of years, might have been a year. But I want to say this was like early 90s, and this movie was released in 89. I had recorded some Saturday morning Boston local independent channel TV, and I was fast forwarding through the commercials, and I saw something, and I was like, what? There was a Greenpeace PSA with Swamp Thing shot while they were making this movie, where these two amusing kids who are in this film, they throw a cup in the water, and Swamp Thing steps out from behind a tree and basically lectures them in a very friendly way on why they shouldn't litter. And it's kind of jokey, and it's unbelievable. It's great. One thing that I wish was on this set, and I don't know that if it's even on YouTube, I remember watching MTV, and there was some show that was like a live call-in / talk show that MTV used to do in the late 80s, and I turned it on one day, and Swamp Thing is sitting there. Dick Durock showed up in full Swamp Thing makeup and costume, like he is in this movie, and he did an interview like he was on a talk show, and it was amazing and hilarious. I really wish they would have found that, but a lot of things shockingly get lost, or rights are expensive. The 2 Greenpeace PSAs are there. It's a 60 and a 30. It's basically the same PSA. There's a 60-second version, and then just a tightened, cut-down version of that. 2 TV spots for the film, 6 promotional TV clips that are about a minute each, and these are the kind of things that would be used if somebody was reviewing the film, or if somebody from the film was appearing on a talk show or something like that. A 1989 promo reel, which is 5 minutes, and it's kind of like work print quality and on-set sound, which is kind of cool. So it's sort of like one step closer to being there, and that's interesting. Cut to Born on the Bayou. That's the kind of thing that they would basically show to advertise the movie coming or show to potential theater exhibitors or distributors or something like that. The trailer, and then there are other MVD trailers on there. So Return of Swamp Thing is a movie that doesn't get a lot of respect. Like, it's gotten the Riff Tracks treatment, and people don't like it as much as they like the Wes Craven because it's not serious. I really like Return of Swamp Thing. I always have. If you've never seen it, it is totally worth it. It's a lot of fun. If you have seen it and like it, this is the definitive edition to have. You get the previous edition that already came out, and you get the new stuff, and it looking unbelievable in 4K. Even if you don't have a 4K player, buy this, and then you'll have the 4K for when you do. So available now on Blu-ray from Lightyear Entertainment, the now definitive version of 1989's The Return of Swamp Thing.